Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Tonight, President Biden is delivering the last State of the Union address before the November election. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The speech comes just days after Super Tuesday and at a critical time in the country. Julia Benbrook is at the White House with what to expect.
The stage is now set for a Trump-Biden rematch in November, meaning that Biden's State of the Union remarks will not only touch on the key themes of his presidency, but will offer a preview of his 2024 re-election message.
President Joe Biden set to deliver what could be the most consequential speech of his presidency, touting the successes of his first term while contrasting his plans for the future with Donald Trump's.
The president is focused on one thing, and that's communicating clearly his vision for the country to the American people.
Biden's speech is expected to be heavy on economic populism, announcing a new plan to raise taxes on corporations and the wealthy and cut taxes for low-income families. The better-than-expected state of the economy is a message he's struggled to get across to voters who remain frustrated with inflation.
This has been an incredibly consequential president, somebody who's helped the economy bounce back to record unemployment and incredible GDP growth. And strong job growth.
The president is likely to call out the failed border deal that Republicans refused to take up. It was linked to funding for Ukraine and Israel.
I think the president will really lay out why stopping progress on a real problem for the American people only because of politics is wrong.
Tonight will also be a test of the president's vitality for voters concerned about his age.
The president is going home tonight. He showed that last year where you saw his nimbleness and volleying back and forth with the Republicans.
GOP House Speaker Mike Johnson is pleading for decorum after heckling took place during last year's State of the Union address. Shortly after the president's remarks, the Republican Party will have the chance to respond in an organized way. Katie Britt, a 42-year-old senator from Alabama, will deliver the GOP response. Republican leadership has called her a leading voice in a new generation. Reporting at the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
Local congressional leaders are bringing San Diegans to watch tonight's address. Coming up, the cross-border issue one guest is hoping to highlight. UC San Diego student government group passed a resolution calling on the university to divest from Israel. The decision followed a massive protest on campus. KPBS reporter John Carroll has more on what the resolution means, as well as reaction from a local Jewish organization and the university.
The demands of the crowd, made up primarily of students, were crystal clear. They called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, and they demanded that not only UC San Diego, but the entire UC system divest from Israel. That sentiment was echoed today in a resolution passed by the Associated Students of UC San Diego. No one was available for an on-camera interview, but president of the Associated Students, George Chi Loy Lo, did provide a statement that says, in part, the Associated Students Senate voted to pass constitutional amendments related to the BDS movement. Specifically, the amendments call for divestment from companies, and 27 out of the 36 Senate members voted to support the legislative item.
It is terribly misguided, and in implementation, it's anti-Semitic.
Heidi Gantwerk is the president and CEO of the Jewish Federation of San Diego. She says the BDS movement is exactly what's at the heart of the Associated Students resolution. BDS stands for Boycott, Divest, and Sanction.
It really is calling for not just changes to this policy or that policy, but really fundamental changes to the existence of the state of Israel.
Chi Loi Lo asked KPBS to submit questions. Among them was to respond to a charge by Gantwerk that the group doesn't understand the full history and context of what's going on in Israel and Gaza. He did not respond to that question. The statement from the Associated Students also says, I want to emphasize that UC San Diego and the Associated Students are committed to fostering an environment of learning and educating. Our mission is to develop and implement programs that benefit students collectively and advocate for students at the local, state, and federal levels. At least for now, UC San Diego is not going along with the Associated Students' demands. The university issued a statement which says, in part, the resolution does not align with the position of UC San Diego, which, like the University of California and the other 9 UC campuses, has consistently opposed calls for a boycott against and divestment from Israel. A boycott of this sort poses a direct and serious threat to the academic freedom of our students and faculty and to the unfettered exchange of ideas and perspectives on our campuses. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Well, we're still pretty chilly out there tonight, but we are turning drier and quieter. The final rounds of snow and snow showers in the mountains are exiting off to the east. We're turning drier, and it will be a little bit nippy out there with temperatures dropping down to around 46 at Escondido, Borrego Springs 47, but Mount Laguna 31, and we'll be in the low 50s into San Diego. And overall, a drier, brighter trend will begin to break back out tomorrow. We're going to take you into the complete forecast in just a few minutes.
Community advocates rallied today in front of the Vista detention facility to protest the latest in-custody death that happened last weekend. KPBS North County reporter Alexander Nguyen says they want more oversight on arrest procedures.
We are here to save lives in custody.
Yusuf Miller from the North County Equity and Justice Coalition, along with other community members, are demanding answers after a man died while in custody.
We need programs to save lives.
It happened last Sunday. A man died after struggling with sheriff's deputies following his arrest in Cardiff.
The person, according to reports, was crawling around a parking lot without their shirt or shoes on at midnight.
He was taken to the Vista detention facility for booking. There, authorities say, he began struggling with deputies. They put him in a restraint known as a wrap and called for paramedics. Authorities say he suffered a medical emergency and was pronounced dead at a hospital. Miller says getting arrested should not be a death sentence.
But we want to see what the process was, where did it break down, and we know that our county has a broken bridge between law enforcement and mental health. There's a broken bridge, and we want to mend that bridge so people don't lose their lives.
We have 4 in-custody deaths.
Advocates say they want to see some transparency in this case because we're on track to match the deadliest year for in-custody deaths. Miller says 2022 has the highest in-custody death rate, with 6 deaths recorded by March.
Now we're at 4, and we're not finished with the month yet.
Tom Packard, with Showing Up for Racial Justice in North County, says the outcome of this case could have been different had the Psychiatric Emergency Response Team or Mobile Crisis Response Team been called to assist.
Have a lot more clarity on how well everybody is trained and then how well trained law enforcement personnel are when they show up at a case.
San Diego Police Department says the Mobile Crisis Response Team was not called, but it is unclear if this case would fall within their response protocols. SDPD is investigating the case as per protocol when there's a death involving the Sheriff's Department. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
The federal government is tightening the standards for acceptable amounts of soot pollution in the air. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says the rules could push San Diego out of compliance with clean air laws.
Let's get this rule signed.
Clean air advocates cheered when Environmental Protection Agency Chief Michael Regan unveiled the new particulate pollution standards last month.
The science is clear. Soot pollution is one of the most dangerous forms of air pollution, linked to a range of serious and potentially dangerous illnesses, including asthma and heart attacks.
Particulate matter 2.5 pollution represents tiny airborne particles that are easily inhaled. It takes roughly 30 of the largest particles to equal the width of a human hair. lowering the amount of airborne PM 2.5 from 12 micrograms to 9, lowers how much money the nation spends on health care.
An impressive estimated $46 billion, that's billion with a B, in avoided health care and hospitalization costs by the year 2032.
Soot comes from burning wood, dust, vehicle exhaust, factories, and basically anything that consumes fossil fuel. In San Diego, air quality regulators say the biggest source isn't factories or cars, it's homes. That's why the state's clean air officials have looked for ways to phase out gas-burning appliances.
Because of the significant contribution they make to outdoor air pollution, in this case, particle pollution.
Local regulators have time to consider how to move forward, and there is a chance that San Diego's pollution levels will meet federal standards when they take effect in 2026. But there is also a chance the county won't. That means reviewing existing pollution rules.
They'll have to evaluate if those are going to do enough, or if they have to tweak some existing rules or move ahead with new rules altogether.
San Diego Air Pollution Control District officials concede that the region will likely be out of compliance when the new standard takes effect. Officials are already considering what can be done to reduce airborne soot, and they're developing an outline.
That plan is going to look at the sources that we regulate in San Diego County, predominantly stationary sources, and identify where we can achieve additional emission reductions from those sources in order to meet that standard.
She's talking about sources like factories and power plants. Regulators also want to reevaluate whether homes are still one of the biggest sources of PM 2.5 pollution, or whether that impact has been overestimated. But San Diego County has other issues that local air quality regulators can't fix.
The state California Air Resources Board, along with EPA, has jurisdiction over motor vehicles. EPA has sole jurisdiction over sources such as locomotives.
Also, California's Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment finds the highest concentration of soot in the county's air is near the international border. Local regulators can't do anything about dirty air that originates in Mexico, and as federal officials point out, the pollution hurts some communities more than most.
Not being in attainment is heartbreaking because we know what that means for our communities.
The health impacts are real and tracked in the state's environmental assessment tool, Cal EnviroScreen. It identifies San Diego's portside and border communities among the most polluted regions in the state. There has been progress. The port has worked to electrify operations at the 10th Avenue Marine Terminal, but air pollution still afflicts nearby neighborhoods.
There is no safe level of PM pollution, right? I mean, all that contributes to the asthma, the elevated cancer risks that we were talking about.
Only 15 counties in the U.S. currently fail to meet the existing standard. The EPA estimates 119 counties, including San Diego, could fall short of the new lower standard. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Washington once again seems on track to avoid a partial government shutdown tomorrow. The Senate is taking up a package of 6 spending bills that cleared the House yesterday. It would fund some departments through the end of September, but a second budget deadline later this month could be harder. Party members don't yet have an agreement on another 6 spending bills that would fund the rest of the government.
We're making our best effort to do the other 6 before March 22nd.
It's good we're not shutting down. And now let us finish the job of funding the government so we don't have to do this again.
That package would keep the government open past March 22nd, and it includes funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Impeachment proceedings against its secretary are still in the works. Starting today, January 22nd, flood victims can apply for CalFresh benefits. The program provides a one-time payment to buy healthy food for themselves and their families. To be eligible, you must live or work in the disaster area during the flood, buy or plan to buy eligible food, and show you are experiencing challenges due to the flood. Residents have until March 15th to apply. President Biden says he wants to cap credit card late fees at $8. The new rule aims to close a loophole that allows credit card issuers to jack up fees on borrowers who make late payments. Jen Sullivan looks at what this would mean for credit card holders.
Most Americans use credit cards for purchases, but if you don't pay your credit card bill on time, those late fees can add up, leaving you with a much heftier bill, which is why President Joe Biden wants to change that.
We have to crack down on corporate gouging.
Speaking on a Dallas radio show Tuesday, the president explained why federal regulators are capping credit card late fees at $8 per late payment. The average right now is about $32.
Right now, you're going to win, and if you bounce a check or you pay a late fee for your on your credit card, you're paying $35, $40, $50. I changed it to paying $3, $5 because corporations are just ripping us off.
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau estimates the new regulation will save individuals roughly $220 a year. So just how bad is credit card debt in the U.S.? Between October and December of 2023, credit card debt hit a high of $1.13 trillion, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. LendingTree looked at more than 350,000 credit reports and found the average unpaid balance was $6,864 at the end of last year. Biden says the new rule will help struggling families with the high cost of living, but some critics disagree. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce slammed the new rule and vowed to fight it, saying, quote, the agency's final credit card late fee rule punishes Americans who pay their credit card bill on time by forcing them to pay for those who don't. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
The IRS is offering some taxpayers a helping hand when filing. Its direct file service is now available in 12 states, including here in California. It's a free online program that provides step-by-step guidance to filling out tax forms. But there are some limitations. It only works for people whose wages are limited to being reported on a W-2. Direct file is available until April 15th. For the past decade, Americans have had access to flu shots protecting against 4 strains of the virus. But a panel of experts advising the FDA has voted to recommend that next season's flu shots have a different formula. Mandy Gaither explains the differences and how COVID-19 helped bring about this change.
Dr. Badzik, yes. Dr. Berger, yes.
It was unanimous. A panel of experts who advised the FDA voted to recommend a new flu shot formula this fall.
I personally think that there's a lot of opportunity to leverage this to rebuild trust within the community, especially those who, are those that are vaccine hesitant, showing that, that vaccination isn't just to put more things in individuals' arms, but also just to address the current circulating strain.
Right now, flu shots in the U.S. protect against 2 A strains and 2 B strains of the virus, but the next vaccines will offer protection for just 3 strains, as one of the B strains from the Yamagata family hasn't been detected in testing since March 2020. Viruses from this strain were already in decline before the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's believed the precautions people took to avoid the coronavirus finished them off. The FDA is now working with flu shot manufacturers to get the Yamagata strain out of U.S. vaccines in time for the upcoming flu season.
And approval of all the necessary regulatory submissions is on track for a 2024-25 PIV implementation for all licensed U.S. influenza vaccine manufacturers.
For Health Minute, I'm Andy Gaither.
U.S. border security and immigration will no doubt be part of President Joe Biden's State of the Union address to Congress tonight. But one San Diego veteran attending tonight's speech is hoping to draw attention to another long-running problem at the U.S.-Mexico border: pollution. KPBS military and veterans reporter Andrew Dyer has more.
Retired Navy SEAL Captain Dan Stewart has spent years in and around the waters of southern San Diego County. While training as a Navy SEAL and as a resident of Coronado, he says he's been sickened by polluted ocean water from the cross-border sewage flows. He's worried it's gotten worse and what that means for SEALs now.
And I was just literally running on the beach last week. Beach is closed. And out there, about 500 meters, the line of SEAL trainees. The training, they can't stop the training.
Stewart will be in the galley tonight as a guest of Democratic Congressman Scott Peters, whose district includes Coronado. Peters is part of a bipartisan coalition of representatives pushing Congress to approve more than $300 million in funding to repair the South Bay wastewater treatment plant.
This was happening in Chesapeake Bay.
it would be taken care of in a month. It's the last funding package we have to do. The 22nd is our date right now. I think we're going to hold to that. And we're trying really hard to get the money included in the budget.
Coronado's Silver Strand is home to BUDS, the Navy SEALs' own boot camp, and the Naval Special Warfare Center, headquarters of the SEALs and home to its West Coast teams. South Bay beaches are routinely closed due to sewage contamination, including today, which can also affect SEAL training. After all 5 San Diego congressional representatives asked the Navy for data in January, the service said canceled SEAL training events went from none in 2021 to more than 20 in 2022. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
PBS NewsHour will have a special report of President Biden's State of the Union address, followed by the Republican response. You can watch it right here on KPBS, starting at 6 o'clock.
Let's take a look at those headlines here as we close out the week. Looking ahead to Friday, we're drying out as low pressure exits, moving through parts of the Four Corners region way off to our east. So we're turning warmer Friday and Saturday, and also brighter. And that'll be a nice change for us. The next couple of Pacific storms will be staying well to our north. So we'll have a couple of these, but it's going to be more of an issue north of Interstate 80, a long way away from us. So tonight, 52, partly cloudy, drying back out. And Friday, you can see we're going to be dealing with some returning dry weather here coming in with sunshine increasingly bright through the day. And overall, some snow and rain showers will be mixed into parts of Arizona and New Mexico. It's a fairly cold weather pattern off to our east, but we are brighter and drier. So a little bit more in the way of sunshine, some patchy clouds, mid to upper 60s for most of us. A lot of variety into the mountains there, 44 Mount Laguna. But then you get down to the hot spots like Borrego Springs. We'll be around 75. Very pleasant day there in Borrego Springs. So the final few sprinkles and showers are on the way out of here. We do expect to be dry, maybe an isolated sprinkle on a mountaintop somewhere tomorrow, but we do expect to be dry out there. And then into Saturday, some patchy coastal clouds, but otherwise a drier trend. So the next couple of storms will stay well to our north with rounds of Cascade and Sierra snow, localized flooding for some Saturday through Tuesday, but none of that should bring us measurable precipitation here through Tuesday in San Diego. That's going to stay to our north. So a lot of action in other parts of the western U.S. As we look at the forecast here overall, we will see an increase in cloud cover come Tuesday. But until then, a pretty nice time here for coastal areas. Temperatures rising into the upper 60s. And again, some clouds Tuesday tied to the final wave of low pressure. And lower clouds here into the inland areas as well Tuesday, with temperatures hedging downward from 68 down to 63 by then. Heading into the mountains, here you can see a little breezy at times, a little cool at times. The winds will pick up Monday and Tuesday associated with the final part of that series of storms in the western U.S., mainly to our north, and also into the deserts. Here you can see a little breezy come Tuesday, but we're looking at a dry forecast for the next 5 days. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
Snapdragon Stadium, home of the San Diego Wave FC, has become a popular venue for women's sports. The Mission Valley venue was selected to host the inaugural CONCACAF Women's Gold Cups Group B's matches between Brazil, Colombia, Panama, and Puerto Rico. It's 2 semi-matches and final. Snapdragon Stadium General Manager Adam Millar says promoting gender equality is a top priority for all of the stadium's partners, including its owner, San Diego State.
We want to inspire future generations of San Diegans. We want to increase, the visibility of the stadium and our profile. Obviously, we want to support female athletes, and it's great business.
The U.S. women's national team will take on Brazil in the CONCACAF Women's Gold Cup final this Sunday at Snapdragon Stadium. The 163 freeway in Balboa Park is one of the most scenic drives in the city of San Diego. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says a coalition of civic groups wants to let San Diegans experience those views outside of a car.
Parkway for a Day is a proposal to close a portion of the 163 in Balboa Park to cars and open it to pedestrians and cyclists. The one-day event would feature art installations, music, and activities in a part of the park that's normally flooded with traffic and noise. Brer Marsh is on the event's organizing committee. He hopes it will inspire people to see the freeway and Balboa Park from a new perspective.
Having big, memorable civic events bring value to the neighborhood, they bring value to the city, cultural value and economic value. You know, yes, it's a minor inconvenience, but I would say it's worth it.
Supporters of Parkway for a Day include business groups from downtown and Hillcrest, historic preservation groups, and San Diego City Councilmember Stephen Whitburn. Caltrans held a similar but smaller open streets event on the 15 freeway in southeast San Diego last year, and an event on the 110 freeway in Los Angeles last October drew an estimated 45,000 attendees.
Where it goes from here is really up to the community and our community partners, right? We want this to be collaborative. It's not just one person's idea. We want all ideas to be brought to the table. And, you know, there's so much space and so much opportunity here. I think there's room for that.
Parkway for a Day still hopes to win support from the City of San Diego and Caltrans, which would have to issue permits for the event. The group hopes to make it happen sometime in the fall. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
And Andrew has covered the story of our freeways extensively with his podcast, Freeway Exit. You can listen on all major streaming platforms and at kpbs.org. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition will have reaction to President Biden's State of the Union address, along with analysis. And KPBS Roundtable will have discussions on high-speed rail in California, as well as changes in workplace culture. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.